All right, whenever you're ready.
Chicago's College Connection is...
I like it.
I am hearing you.
Radio DePaul.
Hello, you're listening to Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection, and you are currently tuned into the DePaul Half Hour, which is dedicated to bringing you DePaul students and local listeners news focused on the Chicagoland area and DePaul University. We're bringing you leaders of the Chicagoland area and organizations around campus to talk about any important events coming up. And today we have a very, very special interview with us. I'm super excited to have Donna More on air with us. She is running for Cook County State's Attorney, which is an important position in Chicago and something that you should all take a part of in voting for. Today, me and Donna are going to talk a little bit about her campaign and some ways that you could vote. Very excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jamie. And just for all of you guys out there, I came to meet Jamie because her aunt and I work together. So shout out to Jean,
who is also sitting in the studio right now, but she doesn't want to talk on the microphone. But she is here and she's supporting. So hi, Aunt Jean. Hello to you. Anyways, so back to you, but thank you for giving a shout out to my aunt. I'm sure she appreciates it. Let's talk a little bit about your campaign. So why did you decide to run?
So I'm a former assistant state's attorney and then a former assistant U.S. attorney. And in the past 7 years, when I look at the state's attorney's office and the criminal justice system in Cook County in general, it's broken, and people in our community don't trust the office to do the right thing. And so I think a lot of folks feel that way, but I'm somebody that, because of my background and training, I can actually do something about it. So I decided to run.
It's a great reason to run. It's definitely nice and reassuring to know that there's someone running out there who actually really cares. As you may have touched on, a lot of people sometimes associate politics with corruption, aren't really sure about the genuine feelings of their candidates. So it's nice to know that we've got one out there who is very genuine.
Well, this is my first time running for office, and I'm not beholden to any politicians out there. And in fact, I don't really consider myself a politician. I'm not running for a job. I'm an experienced trial lawyer actually running to do a job. So
awesome.
It's a different a different understanding that motivates me.
And you've certainly got the background to do it. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your background?
So I grew up in Evanston.
Very close.
And went to Evanston High School. And my reunion is in another week. I won't tell you what year. And then I went away for college, and I came back and went to Northwestern and got a master's degree. And then I went to Georgetown Law School and came back home. And my first job out of law school was in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, where I had great training to become not only a good prosecutor and a good trial lawyer, but also a fair prosecutor. And that's something that I hope, if I'm elected, to bring to the office. Because right now, I think one of the biggest complaints of our community is that the Cook County State's Attorney's Office is not fair or consistent in the way it prosecutes cases.
Definitely. Great background. You're obviously very qualified to run, even though this is your first time running. So we wish you luck. And so about your campaign, what are some of the things that you're really trying to focus on through your campaign?
So I think that the priorities of the state's attorney's office have to reflect the priorities of our community. And clearly, the number one priority of our community is gun violence. We have, I will tell you the statistics, which are pretty shocking. We have a shooting about every 17 minutes. We have a murder about every 17 hours. Of those, 1 in 5 of our victims is just an innocent bystander. And this year we've had about 390 murders so far as of the beginning of October, and half of those victims have been under the age of 25. So, we talk about statistics, but we really have to focus on that these are people. These aren't statistics. And given that half are young people, college age or younger, I look at it, and when I look at the faces when they're in the newspaper, these are kids that never had a chance to reach their full potential. These are our next generation of doctors and lawyers and scientists. We don't know who we've lost. Somebody could have cured cancer. Somebody could be a great musician. And so while we all seem to just talk about the statistics, we have to remember that we are losing a whole generation of our kids.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times we come into the newsroom each day and we're trying to find stories to talk about. And there's just so many reports of gun violence, of deaths of young, youthful kids, essentially. And we can't pick which one to talk about because they happen so often. And many people just see it as a statistic. Oh, it just keeps happening. And I think you're right. It's so important that we start doing something about that and finding someone like yourself who can really reach out to the community.
Well, it's a big task. And right now we have an absentee state's attorney. For 7 years, this isn't a new problem. So for 7 years, we've seen nothing really being done. Now we see some headlines because she has competition in the race. But there are things we can do. I mean, we can't just throw up our arms and say, okay, we're gonna take it as it is and not try. So what I would like to see is, first of all, that there's more cooperation and more joint training between the state's attorney's office and, in particular, the Chicago Police Department. I think there are a lot of times where the police are bringing cases and gun cases and the state isn't charging, and that's a problem. I think we have to look at why we're not charging. There's the issue that people say people are arrested for gun charges and then they're back out on the street. And again, I think as state's attorney, you have to look at what is going on with these cases and why aren't we getting convictions and why aren't we able to get convictions to stick and get the illegal gun runners, if you will, and folks who are committing gun crimes to be convicted and incarcerated. But it is, and I think to do that, Jamie, we have to look at having a gun court, a dedicated gun court, which is something we don't have right now, and get dedicated judges and assistant state's attorneys who start to understand and know who the people are coming through the courthouse. So if you're dealing with a career offender, if you're dealing with somebody that just made a one-time mistake. And I think in that way, by getting to know crime and the offenders, we will have better outcomes in our cases. But the other thing is that this is a community problem. Everybody's responsible for this problem. Our parents are responsible, pastors, other clergy, police, prosecutors, aldermen. And so one of the things that I would really like to do is to have what I call a neighborhood alliance with all these folks sitting down at the table and understanding what is going on in each community. And in some cases, block by block, because a lot of this is violence where our law enforcement officers know who's doing it, know who the next targets are. And if we get it all out in the open and we all take a part, I think we can stop it. And I think we can convince, especially our youth, that gangs and gun violence are not the way to go. And that's really how we're going to make a difference.
That's very well worded and said. I've never even considered looking at the issue from a point of having a gun court. And I think that the neighborhood, bringing community together is something that definitely that needs to happen, because you can't make any progress today unless you have a group of people who are dedicated and rally behind the issue and rally behind the cause. And I'm sure that those words definitely stuck with a lot of the young listeners because we are a college campus right now. Speaking of which, since we are a college campus, I'm sure that many of our listeners are wondering if you have any other parts of your campaign that might really affect them as young voters, young students, any other issues that you're really looking to touch on?
Look, I think that a prosecutor needs to be independent. And the reason why that's important is that you're prosecuting based on evidence, not on political influence. And neither of my two opponents can claim independence from political influence. And so I think that sets me apart. But what I think people want to see in this county is, in addition to fair and consistent prosecution, we can't have a situation where somebody on Rush Street who has good political connections, who's white, punches somebody and the person dies, doesn't get indicted for 8 years, and only then, after we have a special report done, does the state's attorney's office indict for involuntary manslaughter. And then we have an African-American young man in Englewood, similar set of facts except no political connections, punches somebody and the person dies, gets in 24 hours indicted on a murder charge. So I think that's what breeds distrust. I think, just reading the articles in the past few weeks, you're seeing assistants who are doctoring witness statements. You're seeing the head of the civil division in the office making racial slurs and comments on his Facebook page. It's a atmosphere that is not one that gives our community trust at any age level. And I think that's a leadership problem, and it comes from the top. And so those are the kinds of things that I want to look at. I want to have a different philosophy and leadership policy in running the office. I want to be transparent, which the office isn't. They're being sued by the Better Government Association right now for lack of transparency. And again, I believe that the office has to be held accountable by the voters. And you can only do that if you understand what's going on.
So it sounds like your campaign is focusing a lot on having good leadership that can bring community together, that can reduce crime, reduce maybe some racial injustices, and really focus on consistency in the courts and progress. It sounds like a great plan to me.
I'm bringing you along with me for my stump speech.
Let me tell you, I'm on board, so I will be voting for you. And other listeners might be wondering, how do I go about voting for you? I'm not sure if I'm registered. So I would like to make this known to all you listeners that you can be registered, especially if you're living on DePaul's campus. Even if you don't live in the state, you can be registered to vote in Chicago. And there are going to be some student organizations sitting in the Student Center as we get closer to campaigns in general in the United States right now. They'll be sitting in the Student Center, I believe not next week, but the week after that, focusing on how you can vote and giving you some instructions that way. But if you need more instructions, you can go to Donna More's website, which I will be posting on our Twitter page later.
Right.
And I will also keep you all updated on the tabling events in the Student Center so that you can go there and register to vote if you haven't already.
Great. Yeah, voting is important, and it gives us all a voice that we need to have to change the system.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on air with us today. I really appreciated you having in.
Thank you.
And Jean, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again, maybe. Will you come back if you're elected?
Yes, I will.
Great.
I look forward to it.
I look forward to it as well. Thank you so much for coming on with us. You're listening to Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. This is the DePaul Half Hour, coming to you every Friday at 12:30 p.m. On behalf of everyone here at Radio DePaul, have a pleasant afternoon.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Chicago's College Connection is...
I like it. I am hearing you.
Radio DePaul.